First, let's pay homage to the lineage gurus, to the Venerable Mang Liao Ming, to Master Sakya Zhengkong, homage to the 16th Dharma King Karmapa, and to Master Thubten Tarje. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. And homage to the main deity of Homa today, the Sakyamuni Buddha, the fundamental teacher, the emanation Sakyamuni Buddha, and the greatly privileged king, Uchisima Heruka Buddha. Simu, all Dharma masters, Dharma educators, Dharma teachers, Dharma lecturers, Dharma assistants, temple directors, fellow disciples here, present here and over the internet, and our guest of honor today, the accountant of the True Buddha Foundation, Dharma Sister Teresa, the producer for the Illuminating Your Heart TV program of CTI TV Taiwan, Dharma Sister Rebecca, from the National Cheng Kung University of Taiwan, professor of the EE department, Dr. Wang, the wife of the head of the board of directors of the Overseas Credit Warranty Fund of Republic of China, Dharma Sister Vivian Sit, and Dr. Zhuang. Everyone, good afternoon. How do you do? How are you? How do you do? It's Taiwanese, Mandarin Chinese, Cantonese. Prior to the Dharma teaching, I would like to let you know the main deity for Homa next Sunday, October 13. The main deity for the Homa, Marichi. So the Marichi heaven is from the Marichi Sutra. And this sutra talks about the merits of the Marichi heavens, or Marichi deity. And this deity is also very special, very uncommon. And her Dharma throne is on a cart. And that was being pulled by golden pigs or boars. So this deity, Marichi, what's unique or special about her is that the Vajra name is the battle or warrior Vajra. So she is in front of the great sun and moving very fast. And this deity in Taoism, she is called the Doumu Xinjing. So what it means is that this Doumu of the 64 gods, like the zodiac or planetary, and the leader and the one at the center is Marichi. So if you worship Marichi, you would not be afraid about the adversities, so that, like, if you're a certain zodiac, then you would be being offended, in a certain years, then you would. So if you have the fu or talisman of Marichi and you place it at your body, then you would not be afraid. It doesn't matter what year it is or what zodiac you have. So one day I had to suffer from a disaster, and Golden Mother taught me a lot of things. And one is to practice Marichi, because she is the god of warriorship or battleship. And second is to invoke or to practice my mother in order to eliminate that calamities. And she taught me many methods, in what year to go where, and what year go where, and which year going where. That's what they taught me. So that's how I could avoid the calamities. So at that time, the True Buddha newspaper True Buddha News published a photo of me in Tahiti and with a lot of pigs. She forgot, the master forgot. She had bad memory. I had a photo of myself with the pigs in Tahiti and sent it to the True Buddha newspaper. I was wearing a straw hat and wearing Tahitian shirt and had my picture taken with the pigs, and I said that I want to have a pig's farm there. Right? Yes. How could you not remember? Why did I go to Tahiti and had myself photoed with the pigs? That's because of Golden Mother, Marichi, and my mother instructed me to go to Tahiti. Because Marichi has lots of pigs in front of her, pulling her cart. She is a god of war. And she wanted me to have my picture taken with the pigs, so I became Marichi. So I could eliminate all calamities. So if you listen to the Golden Mother, you could never go wrong. She asked me to go there and then go the next place and then whatever. And I went about to eradicate my calamities. It's not that I didn't know that I was about to have a calamity, but I knew ahead of time. Is Dexter here? Where is Dexter? I told Dexter, don't hide, let everybody see you. I told Dexter that within a year I want to move my house. I have a calamity coming, so I have to leave my house in the Phantom Lake to go to a new and unknown place, a secret place. And Dexter helped me find that house. And I knew 1 year ahead of time. How could I not know about things? I know about everything. So a year before it happened, I told Dexter, I need to move right away. Please find me a house. And Dexter helped, right? So Dexter tried to find a house for me every day. and took a long time. I told him, please hurry up. We have not much time. And finally, I moved my home, and nobody knew where I lived to avoid that calamity. So during that time, every day I recited her mantra and practiced her Dharma practice. And I also prayed to my mother for her blessing. Then the calamities were transformed. It's very interesting. Actually, I wouldn't be able to avoid this. So it was a miracle that we would be able to avoid that calamity. And that's because of Marici. So Marici can avert all kinds, many calamities. Like if there's a robber or a thief that's about to rob you or to steal from you, or someone that's about to mistreat you or harm you, hurt you, if you worship Marici, no one would be able to touch you. That any harm or injuries or any disasters that are to be inflicted on you will be gone. So next Sunday, October 13th, it happened to be the birthday of Marici. So if you don't become the primary supplicant for her Homa, if you're not primary supplicant, and then if you suffer from any calamity or if you're being harmed by someone, please don't find me. Because in this world, we cannot inflict harms upon others, but you should try to protect yourself. But for Grandmaster doesn't even try to protect himself. But for you, you want to protect yourself from harms. So you need to be able to protect yourself. So if you become the primary supplicant for Marici, anyone that wants to harm you, rob you, steal from you, set you up, or whatever, you would win over all that. Because he's the Vajra of war. Japanese highly revere Marici. You know ninja? All the ninja warriors, they all worship and enshrine Marici. So they form this mudra. That's the mantra. Om Manici Soha, the mantra. This mudra is really incredible. Om Manici Soha, that's the mantra. Her power is really incredible. If you want to be harmed, then you don't need to be the primary supplicant. So the main deity of the Homa today is Sakyamuni Buddha. Why? And the emanations of Sakyamuni Buddha, and Namo, the greatly privileged King Uchisuma Heruka Buddha. Because Uchisuma was from the left heart chamber revolving and transformed to become Uchisuma. So Uchisuma was emanated from the heart chamber of Sakyamuni Buddha. And the mudra is very difficult to form. You need to ask people who knows, otherwise it's very difficult to figure out. It's also the middle finger, but it's being surrounded by other fingers, so this is not cursing. So the mudra is very tight. The mudra is very special. You need to know this. The mantra. The mantra. Om Jilu Dunan Hom Re. The mantra is very standard. Because he's enraged. Om Jilu Dunan Hom Re. I first transmitted this Dharma practice in New York at the Madison Garden, organized by the Vajra Diamond Temple in New York City. You know, the Madison Garden, the rent was very expensive. Madison Garden in New York City. Not very many Dharma kings ever organized a grand ceremony at the Madison Garden. It was very expensive, and it was organized by the Vajra Diamond Temple of New York City. And his look here at the tanka and the statue here, very dignified, blue. He is blue. Take a look at his look. 3 face, 8 arms, 9 eyes. Please pay attention to the implements he is holding. And before, I have said that the greatly privileged King Uchisama Heruka Buddha, why he became Uchisama, I had mentioned that last week. And he had the sutra called the Uchisama Sutra, and also the Lanka Vamtara Sutra, and another Vidyaraja Sutra had also mentioned him. He could alleviate illnesses, eradicate calamities, to live in harmony, avoiding all calamities to happen, and to subdue the enemies, evils, demonic forces, and negative forces. And he could eat up all the impure and contaminants, impurities and contaminants. For most Buddhas, if you don't brush your teeth, you don't wash your face, you don't bathe, when you want to invoke the Buddhas, you feel that you are unclean. But if you're invoking Uchisama, that's fine. He still descend, and he would eat up all your dirt and dirtiness and impurities. And the Japanese are very strange. They enshrine Uchisama in the toilets, because he would eat up all the impurities or contaminants. Yeah, but we really feel a little bad enshrining him at the toilet. So it is best if you don't do that. So 10 times we recite Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, the fundamental teacher, the emanation Sakyamuni Buddha, the greatly privileged King Uchisama Heruka Buddha. 10 times when you do your Dharma practice, in order for the practice to take effect. If you practice this and gain spiritual response, then you will not be afraid of any impurities, and you're not afraid of periods, and you can go to the hospitals, burial places, funerals, anywhere. That's fine. If you always have daughters and you want to have a son, you can practice him, because he is completely young, or with the male energy force. Okay, thank you everyone. That's all for Uchisma. Now we will continue on the Great Perfection Dharma. Yesterday, I have talked a lot about the Dharma practice, like the 9-cycle Buddha breathing, the Vajra chanting, the treasure vase energy yoga, the non-leaking Dharma practice, the inner fire Dharma practice. And one more is the light drop Dharma practice that I will teach next time. And these are all the real practices. And now we go back to the start and we will talk about the theory. All the Dharma practices come from everyone. That each individual, each human being is the origin of all Dharma practices. Why do you believe in Buddhism? Why do you want to practice Buddhism? At that time, I went to my guru's place, and my guru told me there is a kind of Dharma practices, whether in Mahayana or Tantrayana or any religion, you have a common practice in order to study Buddhism. Without this outlook or viewpoint, you will not be able to practice this Buddhism. So my guru told me that is suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and selflessness. You have to remember these 4 things. Sufferings, emptiness, impermanence, and no self. Only when you embody these 4 points, you would want to cultivate or practice. And the one that taught me these 4 key points is not my tantric guru, but it's my guru who gave me the Bodhisattva vows. It's called the monk Hui San. Hui meaning wisdom, San meaning 3. That's the name of the monk. That's his name. Wisdom 3. The old monk, Wisdom 3. And this greatly privileged King Uchusuma Heruka Buddha, his practice procedure was given to me by this old monk Hui-san. Although he is a monk from the Mahayana Buddhism, in secret, he did practice Uchusuma of the Tantric Buddhist practices. And he told me, you need to remember these 4 key points. 1 is about suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and no self. First, let me share a joke. One day, a police officer had a stomachache and there's only one toilet. So he ran to the toilet and there was a new soldier that's already inside the toilet. Someone is in there already. The novice soldier. So this officer glare at this young or new soldier. But how could you see someone? Yes, because the door only blocked the middle part. You would be able to see the head and the feet. So they only cover your lower body. And you can still see the head. So he glared at the novice soldier hoping that he would hurry up and go and leave. And finally, he said to the young soldier, "Do you know what is when you see your supervisor or someone higher up? What would you do? You need to stand up and salute." So when your superior is in need to go to the toilet, you should give way. This is a play of joke, Chinese word. But in meeting the superior, I have to maintain my own position, but in Chinese also mean my anus. You need to obey. It's the same Chinese word meaning different things. So today, in studying Buddhism, we have to persevere and hold on to our own position or commitment. So you cannot say that, oh, now I'm interested to study this, and then you go to a different place and then you try different things. That's not necessarily good. So that you need to maintain your commitment to that kind of spirit, to your cultivation spirit. And then when you're mindful of the 4 key points about sufferings, emptiness, impermanence, and no self, then you would be committed in your spiritual cultivation. Talking about sufferings, there are lots of sufferings. Let's see what this joke is about. At the Fine Art Museum, in the gallery, this painting is really beautiful. Look, I'm salivating. He was talking to the painter, and the painter said, "This is a painting of a sunset. Why do you salivate?" And he said, "Oh, that's a sunset? I thought that's a sunny side up egg." That's why he's salivating. Please don't misunderstand. Don't take it wrongly. Everyone being born on earth, you need to know that it is very difficult to be a human being, and there are lots of sufferings in the human world. Being born is also suffering, but you may not know about that. Death is also suffering. You may forget about the sufferings of birth, but there is also suffering of death prior to death. After you die, you don't know, but at death or prior to death, you would suffer. And aging is also suffering. Like Grandmaster is entering into old age now. If one day in the newspaper, if someone would say, must be an old man in the 70s, or something happened, even the 60s, they would call an old man of the 60s. Now it's the 70s. So aging is also suffering. Why? Because it's different from when you're young. When I was young, I would be able to jump far, like on a sand. You run and then you jump. And I would also have a high jump or long jump. say like you have a rubber rope and then you jump. And then jump over that rubber line with the foot. I was able to jump far and high. But now I'm an old man of the 70s. In the 70s, in the past when I ran 100 meter, it's about a minute and 7 seconds, like with the gunshot, 100 meter. And I started to run. And toward the finish line. Oh, 11 seconds, 11.7 seconds, 11.7 seconds. That's very fast. So how about Sheng-Yen? 12.5 seconds. That's also fast. Do you roll or run? Because he's round, so he could just roll. So we ran very fast. When I got to Seattle, I could detect if there's a car and then I just cross the street, I would know. Because I ran very fast. As the car is approaching, one day I was in Seattle and I saw a car is approaching and I ran across the street. And it turned out my calculation was a bit off because I slowed down. Please be careful on the road. Thank you. So, when you age, sometimes you will not be able to be like when you were young. You will not be able to jump as high, as far, or would not be able to run as fast. When you were young, you're like monkeys. You're very agile. Like in the gymnastic, with one arm I can pull myself up. But now I will not be able to move myself up. But when I was young, I was very light. And I could make like the wheel turning. The small wheel is holding it like this. And the big wheel is holding it like this with both hands. And the body would be revolving around the bar. And in the small wheel, the bar is on your back. And then you're revolving like that. I was able to perform all that, but now, well, so becoming old is suffering. And then sickness, and being sick is the most suffering. As we all know, being sick is the most suffering. So in birth, aging, sick, and death, they're all suffering. So even if you have something or you gain something, you're afraid that you will lose it, then that's suffering. So things that you already have, you still suffer because you're afraid to lose it. And then if you lose it, or if you don't have it, and you want it, that's also suffering. So there are lots of sufferings in the human world. If you don't get what you want, or if you're separated from your loved ones, those that you love most, and if they're around you, they're not You suffer if they're not around you. But those that you hate or despise, they're always around you. So that's also suffering. Being together with the ones you dislike and separated from the ones you like. That's one of they are also part of the 8 sufferings. So don't think that the heavenly beings are always have enjoyments. No, because one day when they use up all their merits, they would fall into the lower realms and they would suffer. Sometimes they even fall to hell or the human world. So that's why the heavenly beings also suffer, the Asura beings suffer, the human beings also suffer. The Asuras have lots of envy and jealousy, and they are always at war. They are often killed or kill others. And then the animals realm, that's also suffering. If you are chickens, ducks, pigs, sheep, cows, that you would be slaughtered. So how could you avoid the suffering? Or the wild animals, they also suffer. Like tigers, the wolves, foxes, bears, elephants, they're also eating each other. They're in the food chain. That one day they would be eaten up too. And look at the ocean life. There's also a food chain. You think that the fish is very free and happy? No, because all of a sudden they're gone. They're being eaten by the bigger fish. So the food chain, the stronger, the bigger one, eats the smaller and the weaker ones. And look at the seaweeds. And even the seaweed, sometimes we eat the fish. So the grass or the weeds could catch the fish and eat them. Or the octopus. Or the sea urchins, and they would eat anything that comes to them. So the animal realms, it's full of suffering. And the hell, and the hungry ghost. In the hungry ghost realm, they don't even have any food to eat, so they suffer from hunger and thirst. So in the 6 rebirth realms, they are all full of suffering. So wouldn't you say that's suffering? So living in the human world, there are more sufferings than happiness. And there are many others. So you need to understand about this suffering in order for you to want to cultivate spiritually, to liberate yourself from the suffering and to gain the liberation. So in order to become a Buddhist, you need to first comprehend about sufferings, the existence of sufferings. This is talking about suffering. A famous nutritionist gave a speech at the international conference and talking about a bad habit. There is one thing that's very dangerous that cannot be eaten. When people eat this, they would suffer and they would be grieved and become sick. But most people use this and still eat this. And then he asked, can anyone tell me what that is? And there's a man that stood up and said, it's a wedding cake. So is a marriage suffering? It cannot be spoken. On a plane, there are two passengers sitting next to each other, and they were chatting. Boxing. Boxing is a good exercise, and I earn a living from this competition. He is a boxer. And then the other person said, so I live on boxing and I earned a lot of money this year. So the other man said, oh, you must be a famous boxer then. And then he replied, no, I am a dentist. You don't laugh at this joke? Because the boxers would kick on the teeth, and he just give treatments to those who suffer from boxing. So toothache is not a sickness, but the pain would make you cry out for life. There's another problem with teeth. What is it called? So when there is a cavity on the tooth, and then a virus or germs got in, and then inside there is an infection that's very difficult to cure. So in a human being's body, something as small as a tooth would create lots of problem, and then when it aches, it makes us really terrible. So wouldn't you say that life is full of suffering? Of course. Second, we talk about emptiness. Okay, let me share you. Someone who has the highest position. Who would they be? President. Okay, the head of state of a country. So the people of the country is under this person, so he has the highest position in the country, which is the ex-president of Taiwan, Appian. So he once had the highest position of the country. Now, does he suffer or not? Yes. So although when he had the highest position before, now he is in jail. He's in prison, and we don't even know when that would end. So see, even someone in the highest position, he still suffers. That's the ex-president Appian. And then, if you're the wealthiest one, say from Taiwan, Zhou Yongqing, does he gain even a cent or a dime? No, nothing. He also suffered. He earned like billions and billions of dollars, infinite amount of money, But now his descendants, his children and grandchildren, they all fighting against each other. So isn't that suffering? There are lots of suffering, even after he died. If you see all his descendants are fighting each other for money, he would suffer too. And then the most beautiful lady. Okay, let's take an example. Marilyn Monroe. She was the most beautiful, but now empty, gone. So next, it's emptiness. You need to comprehend this emptiness. So what do we seek in this life? Status and position. And what do you strive for? Wealth. And then the man is wanting woman and the woman wanting man. Beautiful woman or handsome man. But all these three things, eventually they all become empty. You have seen many that the status and position become nothing. When you see the fightings in the Taiwan's politics, you would know. Presidents, vice presidents, the superior judge, the legislator, the heads of all these top ministries, and they're all fighting each other. So it's like, the first, second, and third people in line. Even those are not stable. They're at risk any time. So isn't that suffering? So when I see the face of Ma Ying-jeou, President Ma of Taiwan, he had a long face and he looked handsome and he had spirits in his eyes, and when he was young, he could be considered a handsome young man. Where after he became president, when he just at the beginning of his presidency, he looked very good. But nowadays, wrinkles around his face and his eyes drooping, and he looked very exhausted and suffering. How about Obama? Does he suffer? Yes. Lots of suffering. Those in the highest position still suffer. Even when they gain the highest position, they still suffer. And rich people, sometimes in a moment, they could all be gone. Recently in Taiwan, there was this case about Pang Daren. They market their bread to be the best bread, and lots of chain stores, and it's in the stock market. They're very rich. But then something happened. That the flavorings that they use are artificial, and then something happened, and then see, they also suffer. They're very rich, and the owners are very rich, but still they suffer. And then when the rich people all of a sudden become poor, that's also suffering. But of course the poor people suffer even more, but the rich people also suffer. So they're all suffering. So those in the highest position, those who have lots of money, they're all empty. And eventually they become empty. And also good looks, they're also empty. Yeah, when Grandmaster was young, Grandmaster was also a handsome man. It's just that it's a little bit short, but otherwise, if you just look at my face, I'm very handsome. I was very handsome. Now I'm an old man in my 70s. That's a big difference. When I saw the Tzu Chi Wei, the Zheng-Yen, the leader of Tzu Chi, her picture when she was young, she's very graceful and elegant, very beautiful. The leader of Tzu Chi charitable organization. She had a good look when she was young. Now she's in old age too. Of course, her face looked different. I cannot say that she's ugly. Otherwise, the members of Tzu Chi will not be able to accept that. They would say that she's now very kind and compassionate. We have lots of beautiful ladies here. So our old bodhisattva here, please stand up and show everyone. No, you don't want to? You were beautiful when you were young. You know, I knew her from a very long time ago. And she was selling clothes in the Taipei market. And she had lots of boyfriends. Even now, she still has a boyfriend, right? So good looks, one day, even eventually would also deteriorate. And look at the old bodhisattva. Don't think that your good look would stay forever. That one day it would just become a leftover beauty. Or leftover handsome gentleman. They all change, become nothing. The suffering, emptiness, the ever-changing, that's impermanence. So next is impermanence. It's ever-changing. When the impermanence is here, then you would have a big change. Or the impermanence of death, then you would be gone. You know, even when you're young, sometimes they still suffer from strokes and they die. So you cannot say that the young people will not suffer from strokes. So that's why Grandmaster feels that human life is full of impermanences. No one would know when we would die. Would you know when you would die? So when the ghost of impermanence comes, you would leave the world. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how high position you have, whether you're a professor, doctor, or whatever status you have. Or like Princess Diana, when she was involved in a car accident, she's gone. That is called impermanence. And that's the impermanence that we could see. And there's other impermanences that's intangible, things that change you in a very short time. So say like the silver hair. There are some people that grieve so bad that their hair turn white in one night. So for us, The old people would have silver hair, but there's some people who have silver hair when they're young. That's also suffering. There are a lot of changes. Your cells are changing all the time, and you cannot see. It's not clear to you that your face is ever changing every day, and your body too is ever changing. That's also called impermanence. That's intangible, things that are unseen. So impermanence is also suffering. The student is writing about her sister, and she wrote, "My sister," this is also Chinese words. The rhythmic poems she wrote about her sister. When she talks, she moves the thing. When she's finding things, she's turning over everything. And when she's broken-hearted, she's a topsy-turver. And when she's got married, he's very grateful. So this joke was talking about impermanence. Like say, when you wake up in the morning, you're in a good mood, and then at noon you have to have bad mood, and then at night you're really agitated that you're about to hit the wall, right? That's impermanence. Even Grandmaster had that. In the morning you wake up and you see the sun shining, and you think, oh, it's a good day. And then you heard bad news, and then you shake your head and you felt very sad. And then someone defame you, then you felt really upset, and you, come on. Or in the morning you talk sweet words, you're in a good mood, and at noon, oh, just go away, don't bother me. Then you start to cry and feel bad. And at night, I'm leaving you. What? Yeah, that's the end of the world. So the changes that happen from morning till night, and that's impermanence. There are lots of impermanences occurring. And lastly is the no-self. Combining the first three about suffering, emptiness, and impermanence, you would know that the existence of self is temporary, that eventually you would return to the suffering, to the emptiness, and to impermanence. That self, that you, the whole you, this self, is completely gone. So like in this life, who is Sheng-Yen Lu? I often say this. I have a picture of myself as a baby, nude. Was that the Sheng-Yen Lu? No. Sheng-Yen Lu is not that small, like a baby. And I have another picture when I was in junior high or elementary school. Is that Sheng-Yen Lu? Yes. That was Sheng-Yen Lu. But Sheng-Yen Lu is not like that anymore. And I have a picture of me that looked really good, with the hair combed sideways, wearing a suit. Looked very handsome. Was that Sheng-Yen Lu? Yes. Is Sheng-Yen Lu that handsome? No, no more. So, where are you? Is the one giving Dharma teaching Sheng-Yen Lu? that even that will pass. That in the future he would become an old Sheng-Yen Lu. Sheng-Yen Lu that suffer from backache, or Sheng-Yen Lu that's about to die, or Sheng-Yen Lu that's kind of half alive and half death. That all of those eventually would come. So who is Sheng-Yen Lu? None of those. That's just a name. That's why that's called no self. Think about it that way, then you would understand. Today, prior to the big exam, my dad called the son, and the dad said, don't worry, just take your exam the best you can. I have connection. Although we have a strong backup, you still have to go through the process and take the exam. And just relax, don't worry. And then the son said, okay, I'll adjust and do my best. And who is our backup? And the dad said, it's Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. By reciting the Hiking Kuan Yin Sutra, so his backing is Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. So Kuan Yin Bodhisattva is empty because you cannot see her. Why is Kuan Yin Bodhisattva an unseen backing? Because it's a spiritual support. So in our Buddhist studies, to gain liberation, we have to rely on this kind of power. So from the tangible combined with the intangible power of the deities, only this way would be able to gain liberation. This is the key point. So we all have these backings, and our backings are our personal deities or yidams. So if you don't study Buddhism, then you have no backings at all. You would be reborn in the 6 rebirth realms. So if you are a Christian, then Jesus Christ is your backing. If you're a Catholic, then the God is your backings. If you believe in Allah, Allah is your backings. If you believe in the Buddha is your backing support. In order to be liberated, you need to comprehend suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and no self. And you need to be always mindful of this. And then you would be committed and stable in your spiritual cultivation. Because everyone is the same. It doesn't matter how ugly you are. So although you may be pleased to see the good lookings, but the path that we walk is the same. So you have no need to be too pleased or to be upset by the rich man, because the path is the same. And you don't need to admire by the president, because the path that he would walk is the same as yours. So wealth, sensuality, and name all walk the same path. There's nothing to be envious about or admire. Those who are presidents or the rich man or the most beautiful models, like Lin Zilin. There's a joke about her, a famous model of Taiwan. Because her name, Lin Zilin, if you say it backward, is still Lin Zilin. And even when you're the most beautiful model, you walk the same path. So the presidents also walk the same path as you. The rich people too. And these 3 kinds of people may not have the backing support, because you have the backing support of the Buddha. So you win over them. You should continue to walk your spiritual cultivation path. Om Mani Padme Hum.